HBO Max presents Scenes from a Marriage, a new HBO original limited series developed, written, and directed by In Treatment's Haggai Levy, starring Golden Globe winner and two-time Academy Award nominee Jessica Chastain and Golden Globe winner Oscar Isaac. The 5-part limited series is a present-day reimagining of the groundbreaking Swedish original of the same name from 1973, and re-examines its themes of love, hate, desire, monogamy, marriage, and divorce through the lens of a contemporary American couple. Over 5 captivating episodes, Mira, a confident, ambitious executive, and Jonathan, an accommodating, hyper-intellectual professor, fight to keep their relationship and their family intact. Scenes from a Marriage mines the full complexity of Jonathan and Mira as individuals who ultimately know their marriage isn't being torn apart by any one event or flaw, and allows the audience to eavesdrop on relatable conversations between two people torn between feelings of love and hate. The limited series co-stars Sudhina Mani, Nicole Beharie, Corey Stoll, and Tova Feldsha. The HBO original limited series Scenes from a Marriage, starring Jessica Chastain and Oscar Isaac, is now streaming on HBO Max. Hello and welcome to Little Gold Men, the award season podcast from Vanity Fair.
It's such an honor to present this next award.
And here are the nominees.
And the Oscar goes to...
And the Oscar goes to...
And I can't deny the fact that you like me. Right now. You like me.
I'm the king of the world.
There's a mistake. Moonlight, you guys won Best Picture.
I'm Katie Rich. I'm here with Richard Lawson.
Hello.
And joining us is Hillary Busis.
Hello.
And we're gathered here today because it's the morning after the Emmys. And I was delighted that our dearly departed colleague, Joanna Robinson, had tweeted about how she'd be listening to us. So hi, Joanna. And someone just responded that they were waiting for us to explain everything. And so here we are. We can explain absolutely everything that happened at the Emmys, right?
Well,
I can't quite explain. Yeah, I can't quite explain what Conan O'Brien was up to, although I would love to know the answer.
Having a great time, right?
I'm told that Colbert bit at least was planned. That they had the Colbert was like, come up on stage if I win. So that's good. But
it played really nicely having him, because he's so tall, like having him standing awkwardly in the background of anything is going to be funny.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we're going to talk about the Emmys this morning after. This is a tradition that we do. I feel a little less bleary than I do after the Oscars, maybe. Maybe because some of the Emmys are predictable. Maybe because we're all still doing this from home. But maybe let's just start overall. Like, I had a good time watching these Emmys. It was a real award show. Seth Rogen pointed out something accurate, that it didn't really look like it was outside. But provided no one gets COVID, I feel like it went pretty well. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, it was decidedly like... muted in the way that like it was tables in a tent. It was very Spirit Awards versus like
very indie Spirit Awards.
Yeah, traditional Emmys where it's a huge auditorium and it has that sense of grandeur to it, I guess. But I mean, it was nice that everyone was there. I absolutely did not miss Zoom acceptance speeches. I mean, yes, there were satellite London. I mean, did they just rent like a hotel lobby for the Crown cast, whatever that London arrangement was, but yeah, no, it felt good. And I think what I was sort of missing was that, like, okay, if you're gonna have everyone in the same place and expect, speeches are gonna be like in the room, like, I don't know, pump it up a little bit. Like, I thought Cedric the Entertainer did a fine job as host. He had some funny monologue jokes. But I guess maybe there was still that sense of like, let's keep this kind of streamlined and loose and whatever. And I kind of wish it was like, no, well, if you're going to do it. Like, I just wanted a bigger sense of occasion, I guess.
Like have an orchestra, have some dancers.
Be cheesy. I think the thing that's so interesting.
Wait, your complaint is that there wasn't enough cheese. Did you see Rita Wilson rapping to Biz Markie at the beginning of the show, Richard?
Wait, I thought I dreamed that. That actually happened? Yeah, that's a fair point. But I mean more like, I don't know, sort of self-seriousness, I guess. Like, I think that like can be obviously something we complain about award shows, but it's just been interesting watching, like, they had this weird thing with the Oscars last year where they obviously had to do it in very specific conditions, but like, they got Soderbergh on board and they tried to make it kind of cool. And that worked for the Regina King walking into the auditorium part, but then the rest of it just felt a little bit like it's okay to lean into the sort of silliness of this and not have it be something kind of hip and like streamlined and, you know, all that. Like I think awards shows in general are having an identity crisis. I think that a lot of that is understandable given like changing cultural attitudes about wealth and et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know. I think once in a while it's okay to kind of like turn up the schmaltz button or schmaltz dial, and they didn't really do that last night.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I feel like maybe a version of what you're saying is that you can have like Chris Rock saying like, who the hell is Jude Law? And like making fun of him only if later in the show, Sean Penn is going to show up and get angry and said, Jude Law is one of our finest actors. Like you can't have you can't puncture the balloon without then somebody coming to kind of blow the balloon back up or something. And I mean, if they don't have a sense of self-importance, then it does kind of beg the question of why we should care about their little industry awards show.
Well, the puncturing the balloon went to Seth Rogen, who got up and presented the first award of the night and was basically like, guys, they lied to us. This is not outside. There is a pandemic going on. And then both Reggie Watts, who is the DJ, and Cedric the Entertainer had to be like, despite what Seth Rogen said, we followed all the rules. We're okay. It was I enjoyed watching them scramble a little bit there because Seth Rogen went off script.
Yeah, that was a nice unscripted moment, or apparently unscripted moment.
Well, it was very reminiscent of Hillary will know what I mean, but maybe this exists where you are, Katie, too. But like when all of these sort of outdoor dining things were built in New York, there were many that I walked by and I was like, guys, you just built an indoor thing.
Yeah, it's like there was like a roof and a
it is a full structure in the street. Yeah, and a roof. Like there was one in the East Village that apparently the city finally intervened because they were building a second story. And it's like, no, you're just now erecting a new building. Like,
in the middle of the street, too, to block for everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the optics of it, like I did have someone tweeting me being like, you know, being vaccinated allows the elitists to be elitist, which, you know, we can debate that word, but they're exempt from the Los Angeles mask mandate because they were so like, quote unquote, outside. Like the optics of that are a little strange. It's not quite what it was, I think, even for the Oscars in April when so many fewer people were vaccinated. But I don't know. Like I was grateful that they were able to be in person, but it was also like, well, every time I've gone indoors anywhere, I've had to have a mask on and you guys don't, except for the staff, of course, which is, you know, a whole other element of weirdness. But then again, like having an award show where everyone's sitting there with masks on, like that's weird too. So I'm not sure how you solve that problem. All right, we'll go back to the winners and what actually won the awards. I mean, our predictions, I haven't looked to see exactly how we did. I feel like we did pretty well. We expected The Crown to win, expected Ted Lasso to win, expected The Queen's Gambit to win, although perhaps I at least was pretty pleasantly surprised by the Mayor of Easttown acting surge in there. And I think the overall theme about the winners that I have seen on Twitter more than anything is the overwhelming whiteness of all of the acting winners, every single one of them. And there are exceptions in the winners overall. You got Michaela Coel's huge win, obviously. And the diversity of the nominees was pretty extensive. Like it really, there was a really great group of actors up there, and they do much better than the Oscars overall in recognizing a diverse group of talent. But that does feel like a problem that hopefully at the Emmys they are taking a hard look at today. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I think it was pretty mortifying. You know, it was, I mean, I guess you could say, well, it was just that The Crown was there and, you know, because it's of the nature of what it's about, it, you know, whatever. And it's like, okay. But like Ted Lasso too. And, you know, I also think that you had Cedric the Entertainer talk about the diversity at the top of the show, and then none of that was awarded really, except for Michaela Coel in writing. Watching the red carpet with Karamo, who has done our VF Oscar party red carpet, by the way.
Yes, he has.
It was largely people of color that he spoke to on the red carpet because there were so many nominees to talk to, and then to have the actual show and the awards being doled out go time and time again. I mean, like Tobias Menzies, really?
Well, that's the one that felt kind of physically painful. You know, you get Kerry Washington up there. She gives a tribute to Michael K. Williams to present the award because he was nominated in that same category. Emmy voting closed before he died. Surprisingly, in early September. So there was kind of this anxiety around it. Like people thought he might win for Lovecraft Country. He had never won an Emmy before, which is crazy because he's been such a huge part of television. win. But it was never a sure thing. I don't know that anyone thought it would be Tobias Menzies who would beat him out, though. And he wasn't even there, which had like this real echo of the Anthony Hopkins moment at the Oscars. It was all just like not. I don't even think Tobias Menzies wanted it to go that way.
No.
How that
maybe
moment
that's
feel to you,
why he
Hillary?
didn't. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's why Tobias Menzies didn't go to the crown party, because he was like, I feel like if I win, people are going to be upset.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that loss really, really hurt, especially because, you know, it's. I looked at Michael K. Williams's IMDb page to see if he has any upcoming projects that he completed before he died, and there are a few things on there. I'm not sure if there's anything that would get him another awards nomination, though. So if this was his last chance, then that is a real punch to the gut.
We got a really interesting text from Jenna, and you can always text with us. Please do at joinsubtext.com/LittleGoldMen. She said the nominations were more diverse, but I think people just aren't watching shows made by, starring, and about Black, Brown, LGBTQ+, and people with disabilities. I wonder if a predominantly white show should not submit next year as a statement of embracing more diversity, make room for other voices. I think that's a really interesting idea. It's hard for me to imagine like The Crown not submitting themselves for an Emmy, but like also what better statement to make than to, you know, especially The Crown's got enough Emmys, so maybe it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I would just maybe question the first part of that, which is not that people aren't watching these shows, but perhaps the TV Academy isn't watching these shows. And yes. I mean, you know, the I May Destroy You was a huge phenomenon when that aired last summer. It felt like that was the only thing. I mean, you know, not to be Pauline Kael, none of my friends voted for Nixon, but I feel like that was the only thing I heard anybody talk about online in my, you know, real life friend circles for weeks and weeks. And yeah, I mean, the fact that Michaela Coel only got a writing win after being nominated in several different categories. I mean, something that our colleague Johanna Desta just pointed out in a story that went up a couple of hours ago is that, you know, Phoebe Waller-Bridge did a very similar thing with Fleabag. She won an armful of Emmys. Similar, you know, Donald Glover did something similar with Atlanta. He won a bunch. Aziz Ansari for the first couple seasons of Master of None, or maybe just the first season. But like, there's a history of multi-hyphenates really cleaning up at the Emmys in particular. And it seems like Michaela Coel was really destined to be in that same line. And then she didn't win anything except for this one award, which is really, really a surprise. I mean, I know that I'm sure you've talked every week when you're talking about the Emmys about how stacked limited series in particular was and generally is and has been for the past several years. But even with such stiff competition, it seems like a big miss that the TV Academy wasn't paying as much attention to I May Destroy You as the audience, perhaps, of awards shows.
Yeah. And it has this interesting effect when you're watching an award show like the Emmys last night, where I started to resent stuff that I actually like just fine. Like, I like The Crown.
Oh, yeah.
And I like Queen's Gambit. During the broadcast, I was like, well, fuck these shows. Like, you know, like, and obviously Scott Frank rattling on for, I believe, 40 seconds longer than honorary winner Debbie Allen did in her speech, which is pretty embarrassing. And then Michaela Coel gave a very, you know, succinct 30-second speech shortly after Frank won for directing. You know, it's just like it. I think that we've talked about this extensively on this podcast, and I keep saying it, but I'll say it again. Like, all of this is made up. There is no objective way to assess like what was the best blank of any year. So like, you can give these awards to whoever you want to give them to, and it just like I feel like whenever you know something like last night happens where not a single, I mean where every single acting winner was white, it is like people, well, that's just how it is. I mean, it was just, you know, The Crown, you know, it's like, but that didn't, you're not following some rubric that like just like the numbers don't lie, you know, like it's all pretend. So I don't know why people, I don't know. This shouldn't happen.
I think the thing that I will say in defense of how the limited series thing shook out is that category did a better job than any other of spreading the wealth. Like, you got a bunch of acting wins for Mayor of Easttown. You got 2 wins for Queen's Gambit. You got the win for I May Destroy You. And, you know, for the category with, I think, the strongest shows in it, that's what we want to see. Like, we don't really want a clean sweep, I don't think. And that's why The Crown felt so boring.
Oh, yeah. And Katie, we haven't even mentioned the most surprising limited series winner, which is Halston of Halston.
Well, God. Maybe this is the time to confess I didn't watch a minute of Halston. And I, like most people, did not think.
I watched every minute of Halston.
And so how do you feel about Ewan McGregor's win?
He was good. I mean, the show was very Ryan Murphy. It was the kind of Ryan Murphy that I enjoy, I think, versus the kind of Ryan Murphy that is not for me. So in terms of his Netflix output, it's definitely at the top. That might sound like damning with faint praise. Ewan McGregor is very good in it, but I think, Katie, you've talked about this, about how Paul Bettany seemed like WandaVision's best shot to win a main Emmy, and Ewan McGregor winning over him does kind of feel also like a strange turn of events, especially because WandaVision then walked away with nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all thought Kathryn Hahn was WandaVision's best shot. Like, we assumed she had it sewn up. And then Julianne Nicholson beating her. But again, like, watching Julianne Nicholson beat Kathryn Hahn, it was like, well, there's so many good shows, and I'm so glad she won, too. Like, seeing the competition among these, like, real incredible works of television was tough.
Yeah, that was an exciting upset. That was an upset
really
where
exciting.
I was upset. I wished for that Kathryn Hahn had won, but Julianne Nicholson is so great, too, that it's not like you can't begrudge that win.
Yeah, and they had the whole Mayor of Easttown table seated like right behind the stage. You could watch them like be excited like while they were giving speeches, which I loved. It was a good setup for them.
Yeah, half of Gene Smart's speech was directed towards Mayor of Easttown and not Hacks. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing about like the Julianne Nicholson win. That was a big surprise. Like I thought, like I'm not good at predicting the Emmys, but I was like, surely Kathryn Hahn. There was a song, like she, like it was a big thing. But Kathryn Hahn and Julianne Nicholson have kind of, I mean, they've done very different work, but they similarly, they've been in the industry for a couple decades now. They've consistently been good and finally had like breakthrough things, this year. I mean, I guess Hahn has like led an HBO show. Like she's been maybe a little bit higher in terms of like profile than Nicholson has been.
Yeah, she was in Step Brothers.
Yeah, but like both wins would have been nice, and deserved. I mean, were both, the sort of among the standouts of their respective shows.
Life is full of things to manage. Your work, your family, your plans, and your treatment. Consider Kesimpta, ofatumumab 20 milligram injection. You can take it yourself from the comfort of home. If you're ready for something different, ask your healthcare provider about Kesimpta and check out the details at kesimpta.com. Brought to you by Novartis Pharmaceuticals Corporation.
Yeah, and that's again what I keep coming back to with the I May Destroy You of it all. Like I feel like if it had not won anything, it would have been a really justifiable outrage. But I think spreading the wealth among those shows, I wish WandaVision had won something too. Like, take that directing award from Queen's Gambit and give it to I May Destroy You or WandaVision and like spread the wealth even further. Although I don't want to beat up on Scott Frank, who I think became the internet villain so quickly for giving an admittedly a terrible speech. But I don't know. I feel like I've seen worse award show crimes.
It was more that he just seemed galled by the fact that anyone would play him off. And it's like, dude, this is a directing award at the Emmys. Like, no one gives a shit. Like, wrap it up.
Are no Debbie Allen.
And the way that he and the, I guess, producer, when they won for limited series, spoke about Anya Taylor-Joy was a little bit like, did you really pay attention to the show you made? Like, I wanted to say, I was thinking about this last night, and maybe I'm not remembering my Emmys history, but does it feel like a major sea change that the last category was limited series and not drama, which it kind of always historically is?
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if they've done that before, or like in the last couple of years. It wouldn't have been any longer ago than that. But yes, I thought about that too. I guess because it was more competitive, there was more suspense around who would win than there was for drama with The Crown.
Yeah, I think it speaks to the way that streaming has completely upended the industry. I think that generally limited series do seem like the crown jewel at this point. When it comes to television, that they get the biggest names, that they have the most buzz, that they are on often the most interesting shows because they're not kind of hedged in by trying to sustain a narrative for years and years. Although, I mean, plenty of dramas also wind up being shorter than that. But yeah, it does, I think, Richard, indicate that the momentum and the interest is more behind limited projects than it is behind dramas for like the first couple of years. And I feel like, yeah, this is probably the first few years that has been true in like the history of television.
I feel certain that a variety special pre-recorded has never been announced so late in the night, except for that Hamilton one at the end of the night, which I think we were all kind of dreading in our own ways. And as I've resisted the Hamilton backlash, but I didn't especially think it needed an Emmy. But we can all be grateful that Renee Lee Goldsberry got to give a speech because we love her and we want her to get nominated for Girls 5 Eva next time.
I'm just pretending like that she was giving her acceptance speech for Girls 5 Eva, and that she also got nominated for that performance.
Yes.
That's exactly what my boyfriend said. He was like, "Oh, so she's basically this is a Girls 5 Eva speech." But I thought her sentiment about theater, and she kind of poetically was like, "The curtains are rising, the lights are coming back on." Like it was really nice, And she's right that there is a historical relationship between TV and theater. I mean, you think about American Playhouse or great performances, there used to be much more of this. It wouldn't just be Hamilton. It would be lots of stuff. And I hope that maybe Hamilton's success last night at the Emmys will, I don't know, maybe encourage more things to be filmed. And, I know that the Diana musical is going to, there's going to be a recorded version that's going to play on Netflix this fall. So I would love for there to be more of that, if only because in 20 years from now, I can go on YouTube and find those clips like I watched Paul Newman doing Our Town or something.
Yeah, that reminds me, I need to watch Come From Away, which was on Apple.
I'm seeing it tomorrow live. My first playback.
Then, aren't you? I will watch it on my couch. Oh, I wanted to go back to limited series just for a second, just to shout out Mayor of Easttown one more time and Joanna Robinson again, who the last story she wrote for Vanity Fair was about Evan Peters winning for supporting actor in a limited series. It was a pre-write, so if he hadn't won, we wouldn't have run it. But he won, and so we got to run it. And I'm very happy for him. He seemed surprised and almost aware that the work he had done up to this point would not have made him think he would have won an Emmy. But he was so good on Mayor of Easttown. He really deserved it.
You could even treat that as a WandaVision by proxy win if you wanted to.
Exactly.
There, yeah, that's true. Yeah. No, that was fun. I mean, I think that the three actors who won for Mayor of Easttown were very good, and so that felt fine. I saw someone joke on Twitter last night. I think that Evan Peters winning an Emmy for a non-Ryan Murphy project means the spell is broken or something. that Murphy no longer has leverage over him. We'll see if that's actually true. I don't think it is.
That is sort of what Ryan Murphy's tweet at Evan Peters seemed to imply. It just said, "Congratulations, very, very plain, unembellished." And you do sort of wonder what the feeling behind it was when it was written.
Don't get any big ideas, buddy. I still own you. Yeah.
I don't know how much we want to talk about The Crown because, as we said, it kind of swept everything. It, as our friend Joe Reed tweeted, Charles Dance really fucked up the mega sweep because if he had won in the guest actor category, The Crown would have gotten every single drama acting category. Because Claire Foy, as we discussed last week, won a pretty puzzling guest actress Emmy. But Olivia Colman winning was a surprise. I think we all thought Emma Corrin was going to win that. And
I think Olivia Colman thought Emma Corrin was going to win.
I think she did too. There's really nothing better in this world than Olivia Colman giving a speech being like, "Oh, huh, really? Okay. I guess I'm going to accept this award."
Her defining award show narrative is being like, huh?
For me, Olivia?
My hunch is that the producers of the broadcast saw Emma Corrin's outfit and were like, "No, we can't. We can't have the memes, and just change the votes to Olivia." No, I'm kidding. I mean, Emma was wearing an interesting outfit, but
listen, our fashion people say that butter yellow is the color of the season, so I just have to trust them that is extremely high fashion.
I certainly don't know about such things. So I thought she looked good. It was just it was an interesting look. But I think the thing about Olivia Colman is that a lot of this is just kind of inertia and a lot of voters being like, "Oh no, I know. I like her. I liked her in the movie she won the Oscar for, sure. Check, and even though they clearly closely watched The Crown because they gave it 14,000 awards, maybe they didn't closely enough watch it to sort of think about Corrin's performance in Coleman has now been in a couple seasons of the show. She's more enduring. I feel like that was just kind of when you vote, I mean, at least when I vote sometimes, and I'm not so up on the down ballot category, races. If I see a D next to someone's name, I'm just like, okay, and I feel like this might have just been oh yeah, Olivia Colman is the star of The Crown, check, and then
Olivia Colman is the Democrat comptroller of
right, exactly.
of Emmys.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a real ongoing pervasive issue with the Emmys, which I think is kind of spoken to most loudly in the variety categories, and specifically variety talk show, which John Oliver has now won 6 years in a row. And it's a genre that has had lots of innovation. There's Amber Ruffin, there's Z-Way, there's all of these like new voices coming in and shaking things up and doing things differently. And it's a category that previously has only ever gone to Jon Stewart, the Colbert Report 1 year, and John Oliver. And it really feels like, especially there, Emmy voters are not necessarily looking beyond what they already know. And I don't know, you get the impression even maybe that John Oliver kind of feels that way too when he got up on stage for, I forget whether it was writing or for the main award, but he said that he wanted to dedicate it to Conan O'Brien, who just finished his long, illustrious career of doing nightly late night shows for the past almost 30 years. And, has never won. And yeah, it does kind of feel like in specific categories and maybe more to the entire show in general that like there are places where Emmy voters just don't really want to look beyond the things that they've already given awards to.
Well, this is where I think it's interesting to bring in the piece that David Canfield wrote about how the Emmy voting system works, because I think we all know that the Emmys tend to favor the same thing year after year, and it's gotten somewhat better in this PTV era where it's, it's not going to be Frasier winning awards 8 times in a row. But in 2015, they had this rule change where previously for acting awards, like you would have an episode that you submitted for. So if you were going to, like they would select, people from each branch to be the volunteers to watch all of the submitted episodes and kind of discuss and figure out and like vote for the winner after that. So it was, and now they changed it in 2015. So it's just popular vote, like everyone votes and you pick the one that you like the best. So whereas before you would like sit down and see everyone's clip and be like, oh, well, Olivia Colman was really good in this episode, but maybe Emma Corrin was better in this episode. You're kind of considering the entirety of the season, and there's no need to like indicate that you've actually watched the episode. So I think it then leads to sweeps, like what we're seeing, where it's like, I love The Crown, I'm going to vote for The Crown down ballot, as opposed to kind of like sitting down and being like, well, wait a second, this one performance in this one episode stood out in a way that I think I'll vote for that instead. And I think that's a really interesting, like it has given us good things, like, when Jon Hamm kept not winning an Emmy because his work on Mad Men is like not going to stand out in a single episode. But then it leads to things like this too.
Yeah. I mean, the repetitive nature of the Emmys is at some point, I mean, to some degree unavoidable. It's just like because shows are on year after year and,
Yeah.
But it's funny, we were watching last night, a couple of us in my house and all big Drag Race fans. And when it won its 4th consecutive Emmy for reality competition series or whatever, it was sort of like, okay, like it's funny how quickly things become the ruling party,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And Drag Race winning its first Emmy was like, for I think RuPaul won for host, like that was like, that felt exciting and new and transgressive and different. And now just a few years later, it's like, oh, ho hum,
Yeah.
And John Oliver, I think his show when it started, like was it was different. The format was different. It was once a week. It had a sort of more long form, sort of central piece to each episode. He swore exactly. And now it's like, okay, and I think that like, and certainly The Crown felt that way. Not the Crown. I mean, I'm thinking back to when the producer for The Queen's Gambit called their show risky or something, risky subject matter or something. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? But so The Crown never felt risky either. But like, when it was first winning things, it was like, oh, cool, it's the new thing is winning stuff. And now it's just, again, just a few years later, it feels very like familiar. And I think from a viewer standpoint, it would be exciting to have more of the sort of turnover year after year.
Although I should say that The Crown and The Queen's Gambit now mark Netflix's first win of the top award in a category. It has never won like Best Drama, Best Comedy, Best Limited Series. It still hasn't won Best Comedy. And it feels funny because they basically invented prestige streaming TV. They were the first streamer to get nominated with House of Cards, and there was this Lucy in the Football quality to that. And as we know, talking about the Oscars, the same thing is happening then with them in Best Picture. So maybe this is the year they do that too. Good for Netflix.
I really want them to go hard on campaigning for the Babysitters Club next year, though.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's their best series.
This is a hardcore Babysitters Club fan group we've gathered here.
Yeah.
It's true. Maybe we should just pivot entirely to talking.
I would be more than fine with that.
When the new season premieres in a few weeks, we have to reunite so we can just go over each episode in excruciating detail.
I'm sure Rachel Shukert would come on.
Honestly, that's true. Hillary and I keep throwing around the idea of doing a Babysitters Club a week on VF.com, so this might have just pushed a little bit closer to reality.
But we're going to get ready for my 5,000 word piece on Claudia.
Yes. Well, we haven't talked about the comedy categories at all, really, yet. And they were, I think, more interesting than we thought. Like the Ted Lasso sweep happened to some extent. It won a bunch of awards, including the top one. But Hacks made a really good showing of it. And I'm a big fan of Hacks. We all knew Gene Smart was going to win, but it won for directing and writing, which was really exciting to me. I was glad to see that little bit of wealth spreading there.
Yeah, I agree. And if there was going to be another comedy to share, well, it should have been Girls Five Ever, but in the absence of that show getting the nominations and the awards that it deserves, then yeah, Hacks felt like the other buzzy. I mean, I feel for The Flight Attendant, which I really enjoyed when it aired. That did end up getting kind of left in the dust behind buzzier shows that maybe just wound up having more staying power. But yeah, Hacks felt like the other show, the other show in the comedy space that was really like leading the conversation. So it's nice to see Emmy voters pick up on that too.
Yeah,
it was to the extent that when they won for writing, right, and then Agnello won for directing as well, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That was the point where I was like, are they gonna win comedy? You know, because both camps had like wins earlier in the night. So it actually did provide a little bit of, suspense, I guess, which was appreciated, even though I suppose it was ultimately inevitable that Ted Lasso would win in the end.
Yeah. Well, and Hacks and Ted Lasso are both like fresh and new, like what we were talking about, and I think Hacks especially just feels kind of different from what you would see in this kind of comedy space before. And like Jean Smart is like 70 and winning this lead actress award. And she gave this really lovely speech about her husband who died earlier this year and, had Kate Winslet like hooting and hollering behind her, cheering her on. It was a great combination of things for that show. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you both, does Ted Lasso have like a theme song? Because I don't think I've ever heard it. Good Lord. How many times did we hear that?
Do you remember the Grammys where Hozier had like 100 nominations? And I just, like every single time they started announcing something new, it would just like, come and take me to church. And that is what this, that is what the reminded me of.
Yeah. They just need to play a different snippet from the song. Something.
I don't hate that song, but when it's just that one word over and over again, it does make you feel insane.
Yeah.
I did love Hannah Waddingham's speech and also her presence throughout the whole night. I think she was maybe the first award that got handed out. And so the rest of the night, she's just like there having won. And like she like bowed to RuPaul. She's like standing up and cheering for everyone she could. She seemed to just love being there. And her enthusiasm was pretty infectious, I thought.
I like it when people admit that they're really happy they won. I think it's fun when someone's like, I just can't contain it. I'm not even going to bother. I think at one point she was like, I'm giving an Emmys acceptance speech. That's always appreciated.
Yeah, not as fun when somebody comes up with a 2-page single space printed sheet.
Yeah. I thought there was a similar vibe in Evan Peters' speech where he just slows, and Kate Winslet! And you're like, yeah, that's what I would yell if I worked with Kate Winslet too. Also, I feel like a broken record on this, but when I interviewed Juno Temple a few weeks ago on this show, she just talked like so sincerely about how happy she would be if Hannah Waddingham won and how she thought she was going to win, which like actors will very rarely say what they think will happen in a category. Like they're usually trying to be like, well, I don't know, like everyone's great. And she was just like, yeah, I think Hannah Waddingham's going to win. It's going to be awesome. And she was just so visibly psyched, like sobbing with joy for Hannah Waddingham to win. So it was lovely. Go listen to that interview if you haven't yet.
You're ready to get back into yoga, so you order the essentials: a non-slip mat, yoga blocks to keep balance, and an exercise ball. And you use your Bank of America customized cash rewards credit card, choosing to earn 3% cash back on online shopping and up to 5.25% as a preferred rewards member, which you put toward your most essential yoga gear: noise-canceling headphones. Apply for yours at bankofamerica.com/more rewarding. Copyright 2021, Bank of America Corporation.
What else? What else did you guys like? What else didn't you like?
I felt like Cedric's bit about the fly on Mike Pence's head was maybe slightly late.
Oh my God.
Maybe not the trenchant sort of bit that we look for at an awards show. I don't know. I'm on record as loving bits, so I shouldn't come down too hard on this. I love I love the time wasting stuff, which maybe means that my mind should be studied or something. But this was not. I did really like the non-Emmy winners support group. I did too. Yeah, it's always great when actors can kind of poke fun at themselves and agree to do something like this, like appear in maybe a less than flattering light. I actually didn't know that Jason Alexander never won, and now I'm very upset on his behalf.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was funny because it was like, maybe two of you actually deserve one. Like, you know, like there were a few people there. I was like, well, no, duh, you don't have an Emmy. But yeah, the bits were, I mean, the one with Cedric's co-stars from the show he's on CBS, you know, that felt very like CBS synergy in a way that I was like, it really just like glaringly pointed at the disconnect. Like I know Mom had a few nominations this year, but like CBS shows really don't get Emmy nominated. It's weird that they're broadcasting the show and trying to like advertise their material when like streaming shows are winning left and right, and you know, cable stuff, and it just felt like maybe at some point one of the platforms that actually like is winning a lot and has like stuff that people really care about who watch the Emmys, like maybe they should broadcast this, because there was a stark disconnect between what CBS was selling and what was winning.
I mean, network television in general had a terrible night. Did it? Colbert won Variety Special, live.
Yes.
But otherwise, did a network show win anything?
SNL won Variety Sketch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that might be it.
That's it. I'm scrolling.
Yeah, it's just funny to have like, please welcome like Vanessa Lachey and Wilmer Valderrama, who are both, I guess, on NCIS shows now, and like to present this award, and it's like, what? like it just feels like it's beamed in from a different universe.
And Sophia Bush was there. I can't remember who she was co-presenting with, but another person like, oh, you're still on TV. Good for you. I don't know what your show is, but okay.
Yeah. Well, did you see the video of Vanessa Lachey when like crying when she found out she got the job on NCIS Hawaii?
No.
It kind of went viral last week. It was a good reminder that like this stuff means a lot to people because it's like their livelihoods and whatever. Like,
oh, I think Sophia Bush was with Daniel Day Kim, because I remember being like, oh, well, he's been on television forever. He's an icon. Looking incredible
with glasses. Like he should wear those more often.
Yeah, he has. He's been like consistently gorgeous from the moment he stepped onto Lost. It's a great track record. Well, guys, we'll have another major awards show in like 8 months when the Oscars happen. Maybe by then they can actually be indoors and not have Seth Rogen scold them from the stage. Anything you would take from this? This really felt so different from the last Emmys, from the last Oscars. With COVID, like everything changes all the time. But anything that you would take from this as we move forward into our weird award show future?
I would just say that if you're going to do it in a tent at tables and it's the atmosphere is more casual, tell your guests that and let them dress accordingly. I felt sometimes that a lot of the elaborate outfits, which were beautiful and everyone looked great, like they didn't fit the space in a way, you know? And I just think the evening and overall had this kind of lopsided sense of occasion. It was like, is this like a chill, like we've all been vaccinated and tested multiple times, but we're just going to try to eke out some fun thing in a tent? Or is it like TV's most glamorous evening, you know? And I thought sometimes those two approaches were sort of in a strange dialogue with each other. I'm not critiquing anyone in particular's outfit by any means, but like, you know, Catherine Hahn in like a sleek kind of pantsuit, that fit the occasion more, I thought, than did, enormous ball gowns or, very like expensive tuxedos, I guess.
Richard, I'm imagining like the Bridezilla email that you're going to send out to your wedding guests, like dictating what they will wear and when.
Oh, it's been drafted for years. Yeah.
Giant belt buckle, yes. Purple ruffles, no.
No.
If you cut your hair before the ceremony, you are dead to me and disinvited.
Yeah.
I love a ball gown. I love the amount of capes that were on hand. And like there was a lot of like really bright red gowns. Nicole Byer, her purple ruffles, which were very visible, like whenever they came back from commercial breaks.
I love that. You could always tell where she was. She looked
I think I'm not with you in that, like, if it's going to be a televised awards show, I think everyone should go like way the hell over the top. But I get how that, like, if you're there in person and being like, where are we exactly, how that would feel strange to figure out what to dress
I think
for.
It's more that the setting didn't match I would advocate for like dress up as much as you want, but like do some stuff with the set and like with the seating and like make that kind of meet the dress, I guess.
Make it feel grander. Yeah, I can appreciate that. I mean, it was just so much better than a Zoom Awards show in every way.
Oh my God.
And I feel like that might have gotten lost in like or particularly my griping about who won. Like it's just nice to see famous people in a room together, like breathing the same, hopefully not infected air. But like there is something that is so different about having a crowd in person applauding a winner and the energy and everything. I mean, I think that the main takeaway from this is just that like awards shows don't work unless they gather people in person, I think.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't do enough paying attention to the commercial breaks, but I did see Hannah Waddingham talking to Cynthia Erivo. And I imagine, like, you know, they've both done West End. Like, who knows how long they've known each other? Maybe forever. But it was just like, yeah, more of that. Give me more, like, people bumping into each other and
yeah, or like Cynthia Erivo, like, giving Michaela Cole a pep talk before she went up on stage to get the writing award. Like, that was drama. That was great. Like,
yeah, real human emotion.
Yeah. Exactly. You know, I'm told from sources that there weren't really parties after the show last night. Maybe there were like small things, but I think it was fun because it was like, well, they treated that like the actual ceremony as like the big thing, you know. It wasn't like we got to get through this so we can go to the cool party or whatever. Like they, you know, because I don't think there was. A friend of mine, an old high school friend of mine, was nominated for writing on Bridgerton, and I texted her and I was like, you know, you looked great, whatever. Like, but are you going to parties? And she was like, no, but I had my driver take me to In-N-Out on the way home. You know,
that's
I think it was a kind of
thing you do.
Muted, yeah.
So you can pretend like you're going to a Vanity Fair Emmys party.
Yeah,
right, exactly. But yeah, I think that they need to be in person. Like, you know, I had like a friend over last night to watch it. I certainly didn't do that for Zoom things. I mean, also because we were being more careful about